this is not completely freeform. But I felt like I wanted to do this in order to truly give you an idea of what my father was like. There are some here who, some of you didn't know Dad at all, really. Some of you only knew him as essentially an invalid who couldn't speak, so you never really got a sense of his personality. Others of you have known him for years, and so you'll definitely hear some interesting things in what I'm about to tell you. This, like I said, this is not going to be a dry eulogy. This is my version of a celebration of what Dad was truly like as a person, as a husband, as a father, as a friend to many of you. So here goes. They gave me a microphone and a lot of time, so it sucks to be you. A lot of the information I'm going to give you, I'm going to kind of gloss over some of the really basic biographical stuff because, quite frankly, that's what obituaries and other things are for, and you can certainly ask us. But some basic facts. Dad was one of 6 children. Somehow my grandparents managed to have 3 boys all in a row and 3 girls all in a row, in that order. I don't know how that worked, but it must be something in the water. But they did have a nice symmetrical family that way. Dad was the 2nd eldest of 3 boys and 2nd eldest of the family. He was very close to his siblings, in particular his brothers. Our family, we have 3 boys right in a row, and then Laura. So I guess maybe if they continued on, we'd have 3 and 3 as well. But I can understand that because I'm very close to my siblings, in particular my 2 brothers. So I can appreciate that, especially his relationship with his older brother Ken. They were very close. We just lost Ken actually a couple months ago. So I very much understand what that sort of family dynamic is like. They, much of the time, lived in Ypsilanti, Michigan. They also lived for a brief stint in California as well, but they were primarily Michigan-bound, so those of you that follow sports don't take that too personally. They had a very interesting family situation growing up. The first thing you should probably know about Dad is, some people ask, isn't Claude spelled with an E? Well, there's been a bit of debate about that in the family over the years because they kind of figured out what was the true intention, because on some documents it's listed without the E, some it's listed with the E, and Dad just hated the name altogether. So he very rarely used his full name. He usually went by Douglas C. Parsons, but of course, here we are trotting out his name for all to see. There was some debate over that. So he had several nicknames related to that name. In particular, one of his sisters, who shall remain nameless, when they were younger, called him Douglas Claude, C-L-O-D. So lots of interesting nicknames. Some others that were more affectionate, various cousins who couldn't necessarily say his full name yet. We had Unkadunk. We also had my cousin Keith referred to him as Uncle Doug Aunt, because he knew she was Aunt Linda, so he figured he had to be Uncle Doug Aunt. And that lasted for a while. So we have a lot of lovely names for Dad that have floated around the family. But like I said, very close family, all have a very wicked sense of humor at times, as you can tell. I guess I have to kind of actually back up one more step. I was going to go to something sentimental, but I have to get one more because my Aunt Wanda decided to raise her hands and show herself up. One of the things, to give you an illustration of our wicked sense of humor, I don't know what the situation specifically was. I think you had to eat, you had to stay after and eat, like you hadn't finished your dinner or something. And so my father and his brother sat there while she was supposed to be eating the rest of her food and kept chanting, "Great green globs of greasy, grimy gopher guts," over and over and over. Just because they knew it was going to make her nauseous and they didn't want her to finish her food. That's the kind of person that Dad was growing up and continued to be so. Anyway, so moving on. He met Mom actually at Malone, although apparently they had a chance meeting that they didn't realize till years later. They went to church camp together, didn't realize it. And she loved Zero bars. They were one of the, she's allergic to chocolate, so they were one of the few candy bars that she could actually have. So she had this whole armful of Zero bars coming out of like the little commissary area at the camp. And there was this, this kid there, this boy who was making fun of her. And they didn't realize till years later that it was actually my father. I think, if I'm correct, Mom, I believe you said something about it must be a mistake at zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, so he ended up with a 0 the rest of his life.
I don't think he ended up with 0. So. At any rate, so he met Mom eventually again at Malone. They were actually married very young, I think 20, if I'm correct. They met at 18, so they have known each other the majority of their adult lives. So the fact that they've managed to last over 50 years, I think says something, especially in today's culture. My dad was a very strong man of faith. Our family has always been a family of faith. And his faith was not a put-on, it was not something he did for show, he believed it. It was a very practical faith. And even through all of the illness and everything else, he never lost that. He actually, his younger sister, who had also passed away a few years ago,